Hey everybody, it's May, and today I need to do my Bible reading for day 14 and the one story that leads to Jesus. So if that seems interesting, just stay tuned. Okay, friends, so today we're going to be doing day 14, which is chapters 43 through 45, and we are in the midst of the famine with Joseph sending his brothers home and saying, don't come back and try to buy anything. You're not going to get jack during the famine unless you bring your youngest brother, Benjamin, because until then, me and Egypt will be viewing you as just spies. So they had went home and they told Jacob this, and he was like, nope, you ain't going back. And you ain't sending Benjamin back. It's not happening. So that's where we had left off. So it says, chapter 43, Joseph's brothers returned to Egypt. So I guess they are going back. So how many times in our lives do we say, ain't never happening, and then that's exactly what we do. So it says, now the famine was severe in the land, and when they had eaten the grain that they had brought from Egypt, their father said to them, go again, buy us a little food. But Judah said to him, the man solemnly sworn us, saying, you shall not see my face unless your brother is with you. If you will send our brother with us, we will go down and buy you food. But if you will not send him, we will not go down. For the man said to us, you shall not see my face unless your brother is with you. Israel said, now we have to remember that Jacob was renamed by the Lord after he was wrestling with God. Back here, when he wrestles with God, God renames him Israel, and it means, he struggles with his faith. So Israel, who is Jacob, where am I at? Israel said, why did you treat me so badly as to tell the man that you had another brother? So basically he's saying, like, why'd y'all open your mouth and say all this stuff to where this guy wants you to start proving it? And basically they say, they replied, the man questioned us carefully about ourselves and our kindred, saying, is your father still alive? Do you have another brother? What we told him was an answer to these questions. Could we in any way know that what we would say, bring your brother down? And Judah said to Israel, his father, send the boy with me, and we will arise and go, that we may live and not die, both we and you, and also our little ones. I will be a pledge for his safety. From my hand you shall require him. If I do not bring him back to you and set him before you, then let me bear the blame forever. If we had not delayed, we would have returned twice by now. So he's basically saying, Dad, it's not just about Benjamin. It's about everybody, you're going to have to give us Benjamin so we can go down there and we get some more food, because if not, we're all going to die. So I'll take the blame. His safety is personally on me. Okay? And it says, then their father Israel said to them, if it must be so, then do this. Take some of the choice fruits of the lands in your bag and carry a present down to the man, a little balm and a little honey, gum, myrrh, pistachio nuts, and almonds. Take double the money with you. Carry back with you the money that was returned in the mouth of your sacks. Perhaps it was an oversight. Take also your brother and arise, go again to the man. May God Almighty grant you mercy before the man, and may he send you back to your other brother and Benjamin. As for me, if I am bereaved of my children, I am bereaved. So Joseph's saying, it's not only, you're right. I mean, Jacob's saying, you're not, it's true. We need the food. And there was a situation with the money, so take back that money that was owed in case it was an oversight. Make sure you got the money for the new purchase. And let's give him some gifts. Let's give him some balm, honey, gum, myrrh, pistachio nuts, and almonds. Okay? And some choice fruits. And he said, and when you go, we're going to get Simon back too. So that's good. So hopefully everybody comes home. And if not, if I lose my children, I'll lose my children. So I wrote down here, Jacob and his sons. Okay, wait a minute. Chapter 43 describes how Jacob decides to send his beloved son Benjamin to accompany his other sons to Egypt to buy more grain, as they are not allowed to purchase anything without him. Because Joseph's already said, you got to bring him back or you don't get jack. So Jacob and his sons are facing a severe famine. With their previous grain supplies fast depleting, Jacob reluctantly agrees to send his sons back to Egypt to buy more food. This time, Judah, and we remember Judah, he gets in trouble back here because he actually sleeps with his dad's wife. So it's not like his favorite son at the moment, This time, Judah convinces his father to allow Benjamin, their youngest brother, to accompany them, as the Egyptian grain official had insisted on seeing all their brothers when they returned. Fearing for Benjamin's safety, Jacob sends gifts and double the money they previously paid. So it says, when Joseph saw, so the men took the present and they took double the money with them and Benjamin. They arose and went down to Egypt, and they stood before Joseph. So, here's Joseph. He's going to see Benjamin, his youngest brother. That's actually his full-blooded brother. It's not a half-brother like these guys. It's his true brother. It says, when Joseph saw Benjamin with them, he said to his steward of his house, bring the men into the house and slaughter an animal and make ready, for the men are to dine with me at noon. And the man did as Joseph had told him and brought the men to Joseph's house. And the men were afraid because they were brought to Joseph's house. And they said, is it because of the money which was replaced in our sacks the first time that we are brought in, so that he may insult us and fall upon us to make us servants and seize our donkeys? So they went up to the steward of Joseph's house and spoke with him at the door of the house and said, oh, my lord, we came down the first time to buy food. And when we came to the lodging place, we opened our sacks, and there was each man's money in the mouth of his sack, our money in full weight. So we have brought it again with us, and we have brought other money down with us to buy food. We do not know who put our money back in our sacks. And he replied, peace be to you, do not be afraid. Your God and the God of your father has put treasure in your sacks for you. I received the money. And then he brought Simon out to them. And when the man had brought the men into Joseph's house and given them water, and they had washed their feet, and when he had given them their donkey's fodder, they prepared the present for Joseph's coming at noon, for they heard that they should eat bread there. So I wrote over here, Jacob is prioritizing the well-being of his son, and Jacob's wrestling with the faith in God's providence and the fear for his son's safety, particularly Benjamin's here. So as soon as they get to Egypt, they're afraid, and they explain something was wrong with their previous purchase. When they got home, they found the money that they paid, but they have it and more to buy grain. And Joseph and his servant basically dismissed that and go, oh no, it was the Lord God blessed you. The God, I'm not sure if they were saying like the Egyptian gods or your gods of the Hebrew, but basically Joseph's like, don't sweat that. I got my money. Your God just must have blessed you. And so, it says, when Joseph came home, they brought into the house to him the present that they'd had with them, and bowed to him to the ground. And he inquired about their welfare and said, is your father well? The old man of whom you spoke, is he still alive? Because Joseph wants to know, is dad okay? But he can't outright say it, so that's the only way he can find out. And they said, your servant, our father, is well, he is still alive. And they bowed their heads and prostrated themselves, and he lifted up his eyes and saw his brother Benjamin, his mother's son, and said, is this your youngest brother of whom you spoke to me? God be gracious to you, my son. Then Joseph hurried out, for his compassion grew warm for his brother, and he sought a place to weep. And he entered his chamber and wept there. And then he washed his face and came out. And controlling himself, he said, serve the food. So basically it goes on to say, the Egyptians are going to eat with the Egyptians, and the Hebrews are going to eat with their Hebrews, because the Egyptians, it would be an abomination to eat together. And it says, as they sat before him, the firstborn according to his birthright, and the youngest according to his youth. And the men looked at one another in amazement. Portions were taken to them from Joseph's table, but Benjamin's portion was 5 times as much as any of theirs. They drank and were merry with him. So basically, Joseph's sitting over here, and then they're sitting over here, and they're taking the food from, the person who's in charge, which is Joseph, over to their table. But every time they take over food, they keep giving Benjamin like 5 times more. And it says, Joseph orders food to be prepared for all of them to eat together at noon. And he asks after his father, and when he sees Benjamin, he leaves because he needs to weep. When the food is served, Benjamin's portion is 5 times more. And he releases Simon as well, so that's always really good. So it says, now Joseph tests his brothers. Okay, it says, fill the men's sacks with food as much as they can carry, and put each man's money in the mouth of his sack, and put my cup, the silver cup, in the mouth of the sack of the youngest with his money for the grain. Now, a little tidbit that most people probably won't catch here is that gold was not the best treasure at the time, okay? Egypt has tons of gold, and we know from all the archaeological, historical documentaries that we watch that Egypt is just overflowing with gold. They're able to put it on their death masks. They're able to put it in the tombs. It's on the walls. It's on everything, okay? Silver was actually a higher priced commodity at the time, in those times, than gold. They were able to get gold constantly from Nubia, which was just, to the south of them. So they were constantly able to get gold. It was silver that was hard to come by. So when he says, and put my cup, the silver cup, in the mouth of the sack of the youngest with his money for grain, he's setting him up. And it's like saying, you took a diamond that big, from my house. You stole from me. Not a golden cup, but the silver cup, because it's actually way more valuable, And so it basically goes on to say that, the next morning, as soon as the morning was light, the men were sent on their way with the donkeys. And they hadn't gone but a short distance from the city. And now Joseph says to his steward, up, follow after the men, and when you overtake them, say to them, why have you repaid evil for good? Is it not from this that my Lord drinks, and by this that he practices divination? You have done evil in doing this. So he's going to say, basically his silver cup is where it helps him to worship his God, because he's still acting like he's an Egyptian, He's not being honest with them that he's actually Hebrew and that he's their brother. So the steward does that. He takes the men, and they chase down the brothers, and they're like, hey, you stole from our master. And they're like, no, we didn't steal nothing. You can search anything. So they do, and they find the cup, in Benjamin's sack. So I put over here, now that the brothers have successfully purchased their grain in Egypt, they're ready to return home. Joseph secretly instructs his steward to place a silver cup in Benjamin's sack of grain. When the brothers are leaving Egypt, they are stopped and accused of stealing the cup. Joseph's brothers vehemently deny that they have stolen anything, and they immediately agree to have all of their belongings searched. So, it says, when Judah and his brothers come to Joseph's house, he was still there. Because Joseph's pretty important. He's got to oversee all of the selling of the grain during the famine, because we're 2 years in. They kind of expected him to be gone. But no, Joseph's there because he knows that his steward and the men are going to bring his brothers to him. And he doesn't want to miss this. He wants to see his brothers and continue this test he's doing with them. It says, they fell before him to the ground. Joseph said to him, what deed is this that you have done? Do you not know that a man like me can indeed practice divination? He's saying, I'm as powerful as the Pharaoh, and I'm able to talk and commune with the gods. Did you not know that? Did you just steal my cup because, or did you know? And Judah said, what shall we say to my Lord? What shall we speak? Or how can we clear ourselves? God has found out the guilt of your servants. Behold, we are my Lord's servants, both we and he also, in whose hand the cup has been found. But he said, far be it from me that I should do so. Only the man in whose hand the cup was found shall be my servant. But as for you, go up in peace to your father. So he's saying, we've done some things. We're not perfect, but we didn't steal this cup. And basically what they're saying is, God has found out the guilt of your servants. Behold, we are my Lord's servants, both we and he also, in whose hand the cup has been found. He's saying, we're all God's people, and we're guilty of things, but we're not guilty of that. They're basically outright admitting they're guilty of what they did to Joseph. And then Judah goes on to explain, if you keep Benjamin, because you're saying that only the one that had the cup is going to be your servant, and that means it's Benjamin. We're going to have to return without Benjamin. It's going to kill our father. And he goes on to, constantly explain this to Joseph and asking him, please don't get mad because you're just as powerful as Pharaoh. Please don't get angered, but please let me explain, And he quotes Jacob. He says, the boy cannot leave his father, for if he should leave his father would die. For then your servant, my father, said to us, you know that my wife bore me 2 sons. One left me, and I said, surely he has been torn to pieces, and I have never seen him since. If you take this one also from me, and harm happens to him, you will bring down my gray hairs in evil to Sheol. And therefore, as soon as I come to your servant, my father, and the boy is not with us, then as his life is bound up in the boy's life, as soon as he sees that the boy is not with us, he will die. And your servants will bring down the gray hairs of your servant, our father, with sorrow to Sheol. For your servant became a pledge of safety for the boy to my father, saying, if I do not bring him back to you, then I shall bear the blame before my father all my life. And therefore, please let your servant remain instead of the boy as a servant to my Lord, and let the boy go back with his brothers. For how can I go back to my father if the boy is not with me? I fear to see the evil that would find my father. So he's begging him. He's like, please don't do this. My father is his life is so attached to this younger child because he lost his other child that he knows if I don't come back with him, he's gonna die. And I don't want to explain it to him. I can't bear to do this. So I wrote over here, the cup is found in Benjamin's sack. They go to Joseph to plead for Benjamin for the sake of their father, while also admitting out loud the fact that God knows the sin of the guilt they are carrying, which is selling Joseph. Judah gives a moving speech and takes responsibility for young Benjamin's safety. He offers himself as a slave in his brother's place. Joseph's test reveals the transformation in his brothers and paves the way for the eventual revelation of the truth. This chapter underscores the bond of brotherhood and the possibility of Joseph's eventual forgiveness for his brothers. The cup placed in Benjamin's sack creates a situation that forces Joseph's brothers to confront their past actions and sets the stage for reconciliation. So, in chapter 45, it starts out, it says, Joseph provides for his brothers and family. So, it immediately says, then Joseph could not control himself before all those who stood by him. He cried, make everyone go out from me. So no one stayed with him when Joseph made himself known to his brothers. And he wept aloud, so that the Egyptians heard it, and the household of Pharaoh heard it. And Joseph said to his brothers, I am Joseph. Is my father still alive? But his brothers could not answer him, for they were dismayed at his presence. They're like, what? What? Hold on. Benjamin's gonna be a slave. You're telling us what? They're like, they cannot wrap their head around it. So Joseph says to his brothers, come near to me, please. And they came near, and he said, I am your brother Joseph, whom you sold into Egypt. And now do not be distressed or angry with yourselves because you sold me here. For God sent me here before you to preserve life. For the famine has been in the land these 2 years, and yet there are 5 years in which there will be neither plowing nor harvest. And God sent me before you to preserve you a remnant on earth, and to keep alive for you many survivors. So it was not you who sent me here, but God. He has made me a father to Pharaoh, and a lord of all his house, and a ruler over all the land of Egypt. Hurry and go up to my father and say to him, thus says your son Joseph, God has made me Lord of all Egypt. Come down to me, do not tarry. You shall dwell in the land of Goshen, and you shall be near me, you and your children and your children's children, and your flocks, your herds, and all that you have. There I will provide for you, for there are yet 5 years of famine to come, so that you and your household and all that you have do not come to poverty. And now your eyes see, and the eyes of my brother Benjamin see, that it is my mouth that speaks to you. You must tell my father of all my honor in Egypt and of all that you have seen. Hurry and bring my father down. Then he fell upon his brother Benjamin's neck and wept. And Benjamin wept upon his neck. And he kissed all his brothers and wept upon them. After that, his brothers talked with him. So they're just like, what? So basically, Joseph discloses his true identity to his unsuspecting brothers who had traveled to Egypt seeking grain during the famine. Joseph is now second in command in Egypt, and he's been wrestling with his emotions ever since he encountered his brothers. He's unable to contain himself any longer, and he dismisses everyone from the room and tearfully reveals his true identity. Joseph's brothers are stunned into silence, overwhelmed by guilt, but most of all, fear. I mean, can you imagine? You'd be like, wow, what is he going to do? How is he going to get even? So Joseph assures them he harbors no ill will and explains it has all been a part of God's plan all along. The true purpose was to be able to save his family during the famine, and Joseph instructs his brothers to return to Canaan and bring his father Jacob and his entire family to Egypt, where he will provide for them through the famine. So the next passage here in chapter 45 says, when the report was heard in Pharaoh's house, Joseph's brothers have come. It pleased the Pharaoh and his servants. And Pharaoh said to Joseph, say to your brothers, do this, load your beasts and go back to the land of Canaan and take your father and your households and come to me. And I will give you the best of the land of Egypt, and you shall eat the fat of the land. And you, Joseph, are commanded to say, do this, take wagons from the land of Egypt for your little ones and for your wives, and bring your father and come. Have no concern for your goods, for the best of all the land in Egypt is yours. Can you imagine? Because we know what's coming in Exodus, and we know how the Egyptians are going to feel about the Hebrews, the Israelites, in the next chapter. But can you imagine how this is just so odd? You got a Pharaoh who's extremely happy that his Hebrew, I guess you would call him like a vizier, overseeing all of his land in Egypt. He's happy for him that he found his brothers. And he's like, don't worry about bringing everything, because whatever you can't bring, we got it here in Egypt, and it's all yours. Don't even worry about it. Can you imagine how cool that is, that the Pharaoh is like, I'm not only happy for you, I'm going to help you get them all here. And basically his brothers do that. They go up out of out of Egypt, and they go straight back to Canaan, and they tell their father. So it says they went up out of Egypt and came to the land of Canaan to their father Jacob, and they told him, Joseph is still alive, and he is ruler over all the land of Egypt. And his heart became numb, for he did not believe them. And when they told him all the words of Joseph, which he had said to them, and when he saw the wagons that Joseph had sent to carry him, the spirit of their father Jacob revived. And Israel said, it is enough. Joseph, my son, is alive, and I will go and see him before I die. So, basically before they get home, he's feeling his age. He's feeling old. He's feeling like any minute, it's going to be his time. And he feels revived now. He's like, I got some time left. Let me jump in this wagon. I'm going to Egypt. I'm going to see my son Joseph. If it's the last thing I do before I die, I'm excited. And so that's where chapter 45 leaves off. And I did want to point out that these these little skinny cows here, because in chapter 45, is when basically the Israelites, the brothers, find out that this isn't just a temporary thing. There's 5 more years to come. This artwork of these little famished and sickly cows was made by my friend Casey. She's been making some clip art for me, and this is the first time I really get to use it. Other than, let's see, she did some back here too. She did where, Joseph marries the Egyptian, the girl, the priest's daughter, and then the 2 sons. And I believe she did this Pharaoh also. And I just wanted to point it out. I wanted to give a shout out to, it's only right to show what Casey had done. And so this is where we end up for chapter 45. Tomorrow's reading is going to be chapter 46 through 47, and I'm going to post this on Saturday, and then we will do the last chapter of Genesis on Sunday, which is chapters 48 through 50. But I wanted to get caught up at least this far. I do have the study guide coming, and the study guide is not a summary of each chapter. It is my notes typed up in like a more cohesive style with the artwork. So until I see you guys for another video, I hope you have a great day. Bye!